Hey, Fred, you got me?
Aloha.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. So you got your book behind you?
Yeah, marketing, right?
I got it too. Welcome back to the Dropping in Surf Show. My name is Rob Case. I'm a paddling technique coach. Today on the show, we have one of the most inspirational humans I've spoken to recently. His name is Fred Haywood. He has swam with Mark Spitz. He has broken windsurfing speed records. He has surfed Maui. He's surfed G-Land with Gerry Lopez. He has done a number of things in his life, and he wrote a book about it called Racing Aloha. I was super excited to sit down and talk with Fred. But first, I wanted to hear from Fred himself, his chronological life in its briefest way possible. And I know that's not really that possible because there's so much that is contained, and that's what is in the book, a memoir of sorts. But I wanted him to give us a quick background on who Fred was and what he's done in his life. And that's where we start.
Well, I guess you could say my life started in 1949. My parents had moved to Maui in 47, and my dad picked up a job as a plantation doctor for HCNS Sugar. And they gave us a house on the beach in Kahului Harbor. Within a few years, Dad had amassed a herd of surfboards and for us, all balsa wood. So we were all surfing right in Kahului Harbor. I had three brothers and a sister. Um, I grew up there, and then for schooling, after I was barefoot till eighth grade, I had to go to high school and I had to wear shoes at a prep school in the Big Island of Hawaii. I, I, it was called Hawaii Prep Academy, and I was on the swim team. Coach built a raft and put it in Kauai Harbor in on the Big Island. So we were training in a harbor every day.
That's
I
awesome.
left that and went to my senior year in high school with Santa Clara High School and Mark Spitz and company, Don Scholander, Donna DiVerona, all these swimming greats, and proceeded to have a real quick rise in my swimming career through a stroke tip and an emotional tip at Mark Spitz's house from his dad. Um, I I won a national championship and went 5 seconds faster in a 50-second race
Oh my
in
gosh.
2 weeks.
That's
So I
incredible.
went from not being able to qualify to go to the nationals to winning the nationals
Huh.
2 weeks ahead of the race. And it was quite a surprise. I went to the Pan American Games and got a silver medal. I ended up going to Stanford, swam for them as a team captain, multiple NC2A championships and American records and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then came home to Maui. I asked my dad, what am I supposed to do next? And he says, well, you'll never know what you're going to do next. You just do what you think you want to do and do it really well. And it could be a garbage man, it could be a police officer, it could be trash collector, whatever you want to do, but just do it the best you can and until it doesn't work, and then you move on to the next. So it was a process of elimination. I said, okay, and took on a waiter job and a construction job. And one day I saw a realtor sell a house or sell a condo below me, and I asked him how much that was worth, and it was he made $1,800 in 10 minutes. And I said, oh, okay, if I want to go surf in Indo, maybe G-Land, um, at $5.15, it's going to take me a while to save $2,000 for a ticket.
Yeah.
That next day, I got off the wall. I was grouting a cement wall. And that same day, I went to a real estate office and asked my friend how to get into real estate. And he says, well, there happens to be a class tomorrow at Baldwin High School. But it started last week. He says, just go in there and tell them you're going to learn that and catch up and just show up and pay the fees. I went to a real estate class. 6 months later, I sold my first home, a
Wow.
2 acre lot in Kula with a house on it. for 92.5.
Wow.
The place would sell for 1.9 right now.
Right.
And within 30 days, I was down in Indo with Bill Boyum.
Oh, wow.
Running down the path to go to Uluwatu. And we were with his brother Mike, who was showing us where it was. And we ran into Gerry Lopez and Jeff Hackman, who were lost, and Jack McCoy, filmer.
Oh, yeah.
And Jack was trying to show him the way to Uluwatu, but Mike knew. So the gang of us went down there and started surfing. Hung out in Indo for 2 months. Ended up on a 10-day cat, a 30-foot cat piloted by Mike Ritter, and we went over to G-Land for 10 days and anchored there. It was 3 feet the first day. It was 4 to 6 to 8 for the next 9 days.
Jeez.
Maybe even 10. I don't know.
Just you guys? Oh,
2 guys walked in. The very last day I was out, they were the best waves that I'd seen the whole trip, and everybody was so surfed out.
Yeah.
But I managed to surf for 2 or 3 hours by myself, and I caught, you know how you get your best wave, and then a couple of years later you get your best wave?
Yeah.
I caught my best 5 waves in a row that day. Last one was standing up buried in a tube ride halfway up the face with my hands straight over my head, but totally locked in real deep, and coming out, standing up. And I went, oh my gosh, this is it. This is a real good trip.
This is a really good trip.
Really good trip. I was so surfed out, happy to come in after those waves. And then we left. That evening, I fell asleep at noon, and I woke up at midnight, 12 hours later, to the sound of waves breaking. And I ran up on deck, and the guy who was steering the boat said, oh, look at the stars, Fred. I said, did you hear that? There's waves breaking. Let me have the helm. And I jibed the boat.
Yeah. And
went on the opposite tack and went up a couple faces and then dropped on the back.
Oh, geez.
We were right outside of, I think, Uluwatu. We were almost sailing right into Uluwatu.
Oh, my gosh.
And, well, anyway, an hour or 2 later, the sun came up and we were near Bali.
Yeah.
Got back. So came back from Bali and wondered what I was going to do on Maui and selling real estate. And the book is not about real estate. It's about adventure, excitement, going for it, placing your goals and dreams ahead of your memories.
Yeah.
So I was selling real estate. I lost all my money in 1980. And same time, my brother passed away in a traffic accident, and I was living with him in Kahului. So I just decided I was going to open a windsurfing shop, having just met Mike Waltz and Matt Schweitzer, and windsurfing with them. So we started the first sailboard shop on Maui in 1980, Sailboards Maui.
Oh my gosh. That's insane.
I thought, well, I'm either going to make it in the shop or in getting sponsored somehow. Ran into a friend, longtime friend who is now deceased, Arnaud de Ronay, who inspired me to do speed sailing. And with the help of Barry Spanier and Neil Pride Sales, I got over to Weymouth, England, and broke a world speed record on my sailboard. So I got sponsored for 6-7 years. And my dream came true of just going to the beach for work.
Yeah.
Isn't it every surfer's dream to make the tour, I guess, or to just not have a day to worry about unless the surf's down?
Yeah. Well, no, I just keep thinking your dad's advice was just so spot on.
Oh, yeah.
Keep doing what you're doing while you like it, and do it as long as you possibly can.
You just want to do whatever you're doing and do the best at it. If you are accomplishing and solving and innovating in whatever endeavor you're doing, you're going to be successful, because you can do it for an hour a day for a year. You're an expert.
Yeah.
At most anything. But most people get sidetracked in their decisions. They, get other alternate avenues. So they go down the wrong path. There's plenty of rabbit holes to fall into in life, but you got to just climb out of them and stay positive and drop into better waves.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked about it before on this show, how surfing is a metaphor for life. It's like you're riding the wave. You stay focused on what you're doing in that moment, and you do it the best you possibly can. And it'll just keep giving it to you, especially if you're at G-Land. And then as long as you're not trying to think about what the next wave or what the next, what the reef's in front of you, you're going to lock into one of the 5 best waves of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Your story, the biggest thing that resonated with me and what I do really relates to the swimming part of your life. Obviously, my brother gave me the complete book of swimming by Doc Counsilman. And when I started to investigate my swim technique and try to translate it into paddling, and all great swimmers of your era were somehow linked to Doc. Are you linked to him directly or indirectly through all of your practices and teams?
Well, I remember warming up before nationals, and he walked over to the pool. I was the only one in the warm-up pool, and he says, "You've got a beautiful stroke, Fred."
Ah, that's cool.
And then I took down Charlie Hickox, his star, who had never lost a backstroke race, and I'm the only guy who beat him. I tried to go to the Olympics, but I was in Long Beach and I was winning the finals to go to the Olympics, and I only had 20 meters left in a 100-yard race, and the room started spinning. I went into a flutter, a heart flutter.
Yeah.
So I've had atrial flutter, atrial fib my whole life.
No kidding.
But I was pretty much trained out and exhausted, and I hadn't tapered for the Olympics because I wanted to beat the East German Roland Mathis at the time, who was on steroids, and I didn't know it. I just thought, I got to train harder. Yeah. So I didn't get to go to the Olympics. So what I do, I got my towel, I left the event, and the surf was up. I went down to the wedge
no way.
And dropped into some big ass waves without fins and totally shaved and in my Speedos. I was quite a sight. But when I dove in to go out on the wedge, I've been there before. Yeah. I dove in under a wave, and the next one landed right in front of me and put me back up on the beach. Those waves break pretty close to the beach, and it's a steep beach. So I found myself, having to walk back down to the beach to get in.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only place that's thrown me back up and said, no, you can't come in. But that's what life does to you sometimes too. You just go for it again, where you make a mistake and pick up the pieces.
Yeah. Try a different route.
Yeah. Get it going. So
back then, with your swimming, how much was focused on technique at the time, or was it just yards? It was like, were your coaches focused on that at all?
George Haynes was pretty specific on how he trained. He did a lot of interval training.
And he was your coach at the time?
Yeah. Okay. And I had come from Suichi Sakamoto of the 3-day swim club, 3-year swim club. There's a book about the guys that were training in the irrigation ditches. And I had taken a trip across the US and met Mark Spitz the year before going to Santa Clara. Okay. And it was that chance meeting that inspired me to chase him. I always say that, hey, if you want to get good in something, find out where the eagle's nest is and go step into it. You're not going to get any feathers or be able to fly, but you can certainly, watch, learn, practice, and soon you might be able to earn some feathers and fly. So I thought if I went and trained with Mark Spitz, I'd go to a better school. That was the goal.
Right.
We were doing 100-yard repeats one day on the 15s, on the minute 15.
Yeah.
And I was swimming around a minute two for each one of them. And the guy next to me was swimming 59s and 58s, and he was the high school national champion.
Yeah.
But I had already swam 20 repeats against Spitz, who beat me by 2 or 3 body lengths on each route. And now I'm swimming 10 against the national high school champion. He's 2 or 3 body lengths ahead of me on 10. Mm-hmm. And it was the 30th one we just finished when Mitch Ivy leaned over the lane line next to me and said, "Fred, you have the ugliest backstroke I've ever seen in my life. What do I have to do?" And I said, I went underwater, blew air out, screaming, get my frustration out, because I felt like punching him.
Yeah.
I've traveled all my, across the oceans to come swim here, and he's insulting my stroke. And I couldn't say anything except that I came up, I blew out my air, and I said, "Mitch, you have the prettiest stroke I've ever seen in my life. What do I have to do to look like you?" And he went, "Oh." He says, "You know what? My coach showed me with a tennis ball. I'll show you with a towel. Get out of the pool and stand up on the deck and throw your stroke down at the deck and show me your stroke." I did that. I jumped out. We had a 5-minute break between each set of 10, and we had 10 more to go. Yeah. I threw the stroke down, and it landed 5 feet away from me.
Yeah.
And he says, "There's your problem. You got to make it land next to your baby toe." Huh. And the only way you're going to do that is this arm goes over this point goes over your nose.
Yeah.
And this elbow goes underneath your back here, and then you pull next to your hip.
Yeah.
So you had to rotate your shoulders to swim backstroke.
Right.
I always thought lay back flat and swim more straight arm.
Right.
And that's what I had been doing.
The name is a little eluding, backstroke. It's more like side stroke, but it's like a back head stroke.
It's twist stroke.
Twist stroke.
It took me 5 minutes to throw the towel next to my toe.
Yeah.
I jumped back in and swam a couple in front of him.
Wow.
And he said something to the tune of "mother something." "You're just trying hard." And I said, "No, Mitch, this is easier."
Yeah.
And I proceeded to swim 9 in a row in front of him. And he says, "KMF, let's race on the last one." And we raced on the last one, and I swam the best time of my life.
Wow. It's incredible how technique can change just like that. Yeah.
And then just cosmically, Mark Spitz invites me to go to dinner the next weekend. Oh, Friday of that week, I got put in a backstroke race with Mitch Ivy. Uh-huh. I beat him, and I'm number 1 in the nation.
Wow.
I was
just like that.
I was like maybe 50th in the nation.
Right. So that's just pure talent, 50th. And then you refine your movement, and all of a sudden
went right to first. But remember, I had been surfing my whole life.
Yeah.
With a bent arm, elbows bent, stroking, and now I had been swimming incorrectly my backstroke all those years.
Yeah.
So when you put it together, and you just told me to take my surf stroke underneath my hip, and pass by my hip, it was really easy.
Yeah.
It felt like I was not trying so hard. So I set the national high school record on Saturday and beat Mitch, and he's half a second behind me. And that weekend, we're going to go the coach says, "Look, I got to take you to the nationals because you're ranked 9th now." And I said, "Well, how do you go to the nationals?" He says, "Well, you got to be in the top 50 even to go, and you weren't there, but now you can go."
Yeah.
And so that was convenient. He says, "Yeah, and if I take you, I've got to take Mitch because his mom will never let me hear the end of it. And I'm going to take Mark. I'm going to take Jack." And we took 6 swimmers from our high school team and went to the nationals. But that was in Dallas, Texas. And the next weekend I get to Mark Spitz's house for dinner, and Mark's talking for an hour about winning 6 events, although he could only enter 3. But he could actually, now remember, he's 16 and I'm 17. And I never even heard of the nationals, coming from Maui. They're so foreign to me. But for an hour he talked, and they decided to put the shorter course ones together on one day, and the other day would be a longer event. So I was kind of stoked with this, thinking, gosh, what do my friends think about sitting here with me at dinner table talking to this? It was pretty spectacular conversation. And then Mr. Spitz clears his throat and he looks right at me and says, Fred, what are you swimming and how are you going to do? I explained, I'm swimming the 100 back and blah, 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 blah. Maybe I could get a 3rd place. He says, I don't understand what you're saying. I explained myself more clearly. Maybe I could get a 3rd place. He says, but you're not making any sense. And I said, well, Mr. Spitz, my best time is this. It is. I moved my time a 1/10 of a second faster because he wanted me to do better than 3rd place. But I said, maybe if I go instead of 1/2 second faster. Remember, now I had just gone 3.5 seconds faster.
Incredible.
Just the weekend before. Maybe I go 1/2 second, 6/10 of a second faster, I could get a 3rd place.
Yeah.
He says, well, Fred, I don't understand, and it doesn't make any sense. There's only one person in the pool everyone's going to remember, and 2nd through 6 are all losers, and don't you ever forget it. And, my dad, it was supportive, but he had never even seen me swim. And Mark's dad is screaming at me because I'm saying I'm going to get a 3rd place at the nationals at 17.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I thought I was being arrogant. We come from humility. We make fun of each other in Hawaii and laugh and tell jokes and spread aloha, but this is all serious business in this high-end competitive swimming. These folks are all into it.
Well, it gives such insight into that kind of champion's mindset that, you had the talent, the natural talent, you fixed a little bit of technique, and now you're like, well, wow, like I'm right up there with it. And you just needed that mindset shift.
Yeah. It's kind of like I had a physical tip and then an emotional tip.
Yeah.
And I actually dreamt, that was on a Saturday night. And on Wednesday before leaving for the weekend in Dallas, Texas, I actually had my first swimming dream. I dreamt I won the nationals.
Nice.
I dreamt I won the 100 back. And I remember I wrote a letter to my parents and told them, and then I just left for the nationals and said, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's kind of exciting. I get lined up 9th. There were 8 heats of qualifiers. So the 9th person goes back to the fastest heat, which is the last heat of the night. And I'm sitting next to the NC2A champion, Charlie Hickox. Yeah. And I swim my event and beat and win. And I swam I didn't swim a 1/2 second faster. I swam a 1.5 seconds faster
than your personal best.
Yeah, personal best. And the high school record at the time was 54.1, and I swam a 52.6.
Oh my God.
Smashed and watched the NC2A champion. I stood up and watched him finish.
Yeah.
And he leaned over the lane and he says, what's your name? I said, Fred Haywood. And he goes, Fred who? So my friends started calling me Fred who because they heard it in the stands. And this is kind of funny. I said, that's me, Fred who.
That's awesome.
Nowhere to somebody. So it was a 1-2 boom.
Yeah.
Similarly, a couple things happened in my life that were like that, with windsurfing, starting a windsurfing shop, and 2 years later being the fastest windsurfer in the world after a contest in England. And 3 months later, I came back to Maui and we just sailed Hokipa for fun. That's how we would exercise, go wave riding and surfing wherever we could. But there were some big waves coming, and my friend Arno stopped me on the road and wanted me to go sail these big waves because he had a helicopter coming at noon. And I said, Well, that sounds good, but I've been sailing it the last 5 days and watching when the biggest waves come. And I know I'm going to be on the biggest wave at about 4:30. So I'm not going to take a chance at noon. And he goes, what? The photographers, the press, you need it. I said, yeah, I don't care. I'm going to show about 3:30 and I'm going to ride the biggest wave at 4:30.
Yeah.
And he just couldn't believe it. He left in a fury. And I got there at 3:00, 3:30. The helicopter was overhead. I couldn't see any sailors because it was so big. I saw a few of them when I was driving in, but once you're on the beach, you can't see them.
Mm-hmm.
And there were 5 or 6 folks out, really, really big waves. And I got out, and it took me a couple tries to get out. It was so big, I got washed back by 20-foot whitewaters, trying to go over them and not having enough speed. Finally, I got a little opening, snuck out, and now it's about 4:00. And I look around, the helicopter's gone, all the sailors are gone, nobody's there.
Yeah.
And I'm just going, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to sail outside the break. And every time a set would come, I would feel the wind pick up and I could plane. I was underpowered. And I was on a 17-foot mast, but I did catch a really big wave.
Yeah. Were you underpowered because of the waves? Because you're catching the wave?
Partly.
Yeah.
At around 4:30 in the afternoon, the wind switches about 5 to 8 degrees and comes more offshore. Mm-hmm. So it was side shore earlier, and now it's turning more offshore. So it's hard to keep a plane because it's coming through the waves that are breaking against it.
Right,
so
right.
They'll block the wind.
Right.
But when you're out at sea, all these, and when you're surfing too, you'll experience wind gusts when sets are coming. Wow. So because the height of the wave is compressing wind in between all these waves, and everything shifts, so even when I'm out surfing, if I'm not paying attention, I'll know to turn around and start paddling if I feel wind.
Right.
Anyway, that's a little tip for surfers.
That is very cool.
Yeah. So rode that big wave. I came into the back of Hokipa Beach Park. I mean, I sailed right up to the grass, right through the whole beach, and came up because the wave just washed all the way up. And I look up and I'm pulling my rig up and walking it, putting it on the grass. And I see out of the corner of my eye, this guy running down with his camera banging back and forth. And it's the same guy, Arnaud, who had told me to come to the beach at noon because he was going to be doing filming.
Right.
But he had the helicopter drop him off, and he was sitting up on the point waiting for me to ride a wave. So he got one roll of film, 24 shots. And then, so he's going, this is the biggest wave. This is bigger than your world record, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
They'll be remembered forever. And I said, yeah, well, they'll ride bigger waves, no problem. And he says, so he went out and he's got 24 prints, and he arranged each of them for 6 shots, and he must have sold it 15 times, guaranteeing each magazine that he would give him exclusive use of 6 individual shots. Nice. But what he was doing is just shuffling the shots to make sure that none of them had the same 6.
Right.
He did well on that.
Yeah.
But again, those are some of the highlights, and there's other surf stories and shark stories and speed sailing stories, and
you
it's
said
a big
Arnaud,
adventure of my life.
You said Arnaud motivated you to go after the speed record.
Sailing.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Now, what did he say to you? Like, hey, why don't you just try this contest? It'll be fun. Or
well, he was, one day he got into an argument with Mike Waltz at our windsurfing shop because he told Mike that he plays like a clown on the waves and that the true essence was speed. And Mike says, you're crazy. It's all the same, but I didn't disagree with either of them.
Yeah.
They were both fantastic. Wave riding is nothing like it.
Yeah.
And speed sailing is pretty amazing too when it's happening. So couple weeks after the contest the year before, the world record holder had bought a board from Jimmy Lewis, who was our shaper. And Jimmy had made a board that he rolled the planer on the bottom of the board when he was pushing it through the cut, and it made a gouge. So instead of just throwing the blank out, he just made it a concave.
No way.
And he glassed the board, put it in his shop, and this Pascal Maka French guy came walking into the shop and bought the board and broke a world speed record on it. And we used that shot, we just plagiarized the shot from whoever took it and advertised it. We were the fastest board in the world.
Right.
And he came walking in the shop a few months later and says, "Hey, you guys used my image and I want some money for it." And I said, "Well, you know, we can't pay you any money. We're dirt broke. We're just having fun, but we'll give you a discount on the board." And he says, "Oh, yeah, right." I said, "Well, if you're not appreciating that, I'll just come over to Weymouth and kick your butt next year." We both laughed. But, I was setting up my mindset.
Yeah.
I'm thinking ahead again. No, because he was laughing at me, and I said, "Okay." I just started going up to Hokipa and launching my speed boards and going down the coast and having Jimmy build me a bunch of speed boards until we figured out what was going fast. And the following year, I first stopped in a contest in France, and I actually got 315th out of 315 sailors because I couldn't make a run with my small equipment.
Right.
I didn't ride until it was 20 knots. It was only blowing 15 to 18, and I couldn't ride it. And so when I got to Weymouth the next month, I was in line, and some guy didn't want number 13, and I was standing behind him. And I said, "I'll take 13. There's nothing else that can crush me like a bad number. That might be luck." Right. So I went to Weymouth, and then wind came up strong enough, and I had a new innovation, a wing mast to use. And my friend had won the contest in France on the same mast. His name is Klaus Simmer, and his brother is a Malta, and they had a sail off over here in Maui, and but he was a sponsored rider, and I was the beginner rider, so I wasn't really sponsored yet. So I just borrowed his wing mast because he had to go to it somewhere else. Yeah. And then used it on my board and broke the world record. And then I didn't have to work for 6 or 7 years beyond sailing. Right. So, I mean, that's a lot of information, and there's a lot more in the book, but
no, it's just such a cool story behind why you went over there, because it was somewhat random in that chronological highlight.
And who knew the wind would blow, and who knew that anything would work, and who knew I had not made a run ever on this board. I never used the sail.
Well, and also you really learned from Mr. Spitz and that mindset change as well.
Yeah.
Going into that, you used that to your advantage.
Well, I do realize that my mindset was perfect for accomplishing things if I just stayed the course. Yeah. There's obvious setbacks when you crash, when you hurt yourself, when someone tells you, you swim like a piece of shit. Yeah, but you just, take it like water flowing, right? It's going to flow around you if you're a post. If you're strong, everything flows around you. Yeah. You're not going to cave in any kind of emotional stuff. And, you wait for your opportunity to show them that you got it. Yeah. But I think a lot of people, it's unfortunate. We didn't have any internet back then. So there's not this constant barraging of internet going on. And that's kind of a hard one. We've been through the most difficult times of our lives with this COVID and the negativity of the internet. So here we are coming out of it again, and a lot of people have an opportunity to improve their lives and move around and change it up. And every one of my moves happened off of adversity. Yeah. when you get hit with something, well, try to improve everything when you lose something.
Right.
So that's what I constantly did. In fact, I lost my brother who was running Maui Jim Sunglasses, Bill, 2 years ago, and I decided I was going to write my book. So I go to Vegas the next week with my friends, and I step off a curb incorrectly, and I try to recover myself and catch my fall, and instead I land on my leg, and I've twisted my ankle, and now I'm torn all 3 hamstring off my pelvic bone.
Oh.
So the irony of it all,
yeah.
I was writing that book with an editor helping me, and that was from a hospital bed in my house.
Yeah.
But it gave me something to do at such a negative time to keep my spirits up. I didn't know what this was going to do. I thought we were just going to make an, self-publishing Amazon book. And I sent it when it was finished, 6-8 months later. We sent some of the copy to a literary agent friend of mine, and he just called a week later and said, "You know what, Fred, this book is good, and I've got someone to wants to publish it."
That's awesome.
So I never even made an effort to try publish it, but it's now published, but since August 10th. So it's on a number of websites, Amazon and whatnot, and it's also a lot of the stories that are on racingwithaloha.com. And we set up a website where I interviewed all the people that were in the book. And I have 8 or 10 interviews. On the top of the website under archives, you can go click there and go see some of the interviews. I had an interview with Mark Spitz and Laird Hamilton, Kai Lenny.
Yeah.
And these are people that were around me.
Yeah.
Kai was inspired by my stories.
Yeah. I mean, they're just talking with you right now. It's inspirational. I'm looking forward to reading the whole thing with my copy, Racing Aloha. I'm excited that a publisher recognized how it really came at a good time in our lives, with people really feeling down about the environment, the environment we've been in. So some funny stories, I hope. And I love surf stories. Like I said, I dig this stuff, and it's motivational. Some great stuff. You've really designed your life the way you've wanted to design it, which is, I think, for a lot of people, very inspirational.
Like, I wanted to go surfing after I was a swimming champion. I wanted to go surf around the world because, I was surfing Honolulu and Maui and getting big barrels and stuff. But man, I read a letter of someone who had discovered G-Land.
Yeah.
And I went, oh my goodness. And I want to go there. And surprisingly, the next year I was there. And surprisingly, it was the best swell of the year. I got there May, June, July. In early July, they had a big swell, and that's what we were surfing.
Yeah. And
it was a perfect angle. In G-Land, when you surf it, there's like 3 major takeoffs.
Uh-huh.
And you start at Money Trees, and you take this wave, and pretty insane tube, and you can kick out and paddle 20 yards and catch another little section that takes off and go down the racetracks and catch a third one. And then you've got a 20-minute paddle around the outside of the waves to get back.
Yeah.
So you don't even see the takeoff place when you've ridden those 3 sections. Wow. And so imagine doing that for 8-9 days in a row and how tired you are.
Yeah.
But that's all we were doing was surfing. So back then I was riding a 7'8" pintail single fin, but real low rails, really good tube riding board.
Yeah, right. I mean, and with none of the technology that we have today with forecasts, it was the true surf exploration where you show up and you just kind of hang out for a bit until something comes, or you run out of money.
I know, we were sleeping on the boat and right off fairly close to the break.
That's what you said. That's crazy.
Yeah, we would wait for the eye of the tube to be perfectly cylindrical on the lip going over. and not have a lot of back spray.
Yeah.
Just there's a time of the day when the winds would just turn offshore and get perfect, and okay, we're going.
Oh gosh, that's amazing.
Wait for the insane rides.
How do you take crowds and all the technology today? What's your thoughts?
Oh, it's, you got to share the Aloha.
Yeah.
That's kind of what the book's about. Yeah. And you can't get upset about it. It is what it is. You just learn to appreciate it all with more people around. Yeah. Just like Maui, it's gotten crowded with tourism. I was watching a picture of a fellow realtor shooting the sunset the other day, and they panned the sunset and it was beautiful. Then they just turned it on the beach, and there must have been 50 people with cocktails and things standing around that had walked out of all the condos to see the sunset. Yeah. I went, oh, I remember when we go to those beaches and camp out, and there weren't any condos and no people, and we'd wonder if anyone else saw the sunsets we were watching. Right. Here it is 50 years later, and everybody's on the beaches enjoying it. And so Maui's opened up to share it with everybody. And I think in our hearts, we have to share it with everybody and not be so judgmental. And I have a theory that you must stay out of judgment and go to curiosity. Anytime you feel like jabbing somebody, why don't you turn it around and ask them what makes them so special in that position they're in? What did they do to get good? What benefits do you think I could do to help me on my journey? Yeah. A lot of times when there's adversity, there's opportunity. Yeah. And we work with that in real estate too. I've been selling real estate for 48 years. I'm trying to retire, but it's coming on strong. So like, as long as there's set waves, I can't stop surfing.
Yeah, totally. As long as the wave keeps going, keep riding.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's a great attitude. It's a great message to send to people. And I'm super stoked we got a chance to talk. Do you by chance know Court Larned? Yeah. 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 He's right here. He's about 10 minutes south of us. He runs a shop.
Yeah. He's got most successful SUP shop.
Yeah. 101
He's a great guy.
In San Rafael. They're great. And
great guy.
His partner, David Wells, is also, they run that shop really well. So
yeah.
If you ever make it over here, let me know and we'll go visit them.
Yeah. Cool. It's in Santa Monica, you said?
No, it's called San Rafael.
San Rafael. Yeah, I kind of know where it is.
Yeah. It's about 10 minutes south of where I'm at.
I actually lifeguarded in Carpinteria.
Okay. Yeah. It's more in SoCal. We're up just north of San Francisco.
Yeah.
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 Very cool.
Up getting close to the wine countries.
Yeah, that's right.
Napa's right there.
That's right. We're like 20 to 30 minutes from the closest winery where I'm at, and 20 minutes from the city. So nice little position.
Yeah. But, I love San Francisco. It's changed a lot too, but hey, stay out of judgment, go to curiosity, share the Aloha.
That Walt Whitman quote? Is that
it could be.
Yeah, I think that is.
Mm-hmm.
Some along those lines.
It's applied in many fields, and I think it's where we have to go with everything that's exploding around us.
Yeah. Well, your story about how you changed your backstroke with the guy that told you your stroke looked like crap, going underwater, getting the frustration out, and then coming up and being curious instead of being judgmental. Why did this guy tell me that? Instead, you're like, well, tell me, like, why is yours so nice? Why is yours so beautiful?
Yeah.
And that started a wildfire of experience for you moving forward.
Yeah. I had left swimming in my raft. I was doing some double workouts in Hawaii where the coach would wake me up with a flashlight at 4:30 in my prep school at Hawaii Prep with a flashlight in bed, and I'd go out and jump in his car, and he was only training me in double workouts, and the rest of the team didn't even know. But I had to go swim a lantern out to the raft.
Yeah.
And then he would shine car lights and let the engine run for an hour and I would swim backstroke one way and freestyle one way. And that
no
was
flags.
weird.
What were the flags? There's no flags to look at.
You can't see anything, but at least, you know, I could see my freestyle turn with the car lights on that end. And then the backstroke, I could see the lights on the flags.
So you're in the harbor. You had walls? I was going to say,
there were 2 telephone poles and 2 rafts with plywood turn lanes. And we had lanes in between, you know, with flotation lanes. Right. So we were actually just training in the ocean, and we did not have a lot of goggles then. So a lot of the team got pterygiums from all that salt water.
Oh my God.
Which is that growth on your inner eye, you know. But anyway.
How weird was it to have walls when you finally went to Santa Clara Club?
It was, I mean, I had to swim in them, and I had done training in regular pools before then, but this is just to make it more convenient for our school, because to go to another place to train was an hour each way. So he saved, you know, 40 minutes drive on both sides by building our own pool.
That's cool. I like it.
But talk about the slowest pool in the world to the fastest and having this accomplished. I thought it would make a good story when I was 17. I thought about writing about my adventures. But at 71, it's still a good story, and it got more better because there's
swap the numbers. You're good.
Some great surfing stories and some great windsurfing stories, and I actually shared equipment with Laird and helped him win contests so that he could get sponsored. That's cool. I shared equipment with Anders Bringdahl because I was going to go break the 10-meter class record in Australia, and I gave Anders my board because he had these funky boards, and while I was breaking a world record, he won the contest.
Yeah.
So, and life is about sharing what you have. You know, you don't collect anything all for yourself.
Yeah.
If you can learn to give things away, give your tips away, give your love away, give your aloha away, it will all come back to you tenfold.
Yeah.
So people need to just share aloha out there. I'm on the backside. I probably might not ever go surfing again because I'm having a hard time balancing with my sciatic nerve problem. I have a drop foot and everything. So I'm likely not going to get too much into the water except in the swimming pool, which I'm doing again.
Yeah.
It's easy to swim.
Yeah, that's great. Well, great message, Fred. I appreciate your time. I don't want to take too much more of it.
Thank you.
If you guys are interested, Racing Aloha is out. Amazon?
Yeah.
Best way to get it?
Amazon, they got it. And if you buy it, please write a review. If you share the stoke, it'll help the book.
Yeah. I'll throw something up there once I'm done reading it.
Right on.
Yeah, I'm stoked. Well, thank you so much. And aloha.
Aloha.
Thanks, Fred.
Take care.